time we'll call to order the Hamilton County Council meeting for Wednesday, June 2nd. May I have a roll call, please?
Brad Beaver.
Here.
Fred Glenn.
Present.
Amy Moslamini.
Present.
Steve Schwartz.
Present.
Steve Nation.
Here.
Ken Alexander.
Present.
Sue May.
Here.
Madam President, you have a quorum.
This time I'll ask for the invocation and pledge of allegiance led by Counselor Nation.
Please bow your heads. Almighty God, please be with us here tonight so that we will do your will. We ask this in your name. Amen.
Amen.
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The reading and approval of the minutes for our regular meeting on May 5th, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Reading and approval of the minutes for our joint meeting on 4/23/2021.
So moved.
Second.
So moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. This time, are there any public comments? Seeing none, we will move on to committee and officer reports. I have a couple of things. We did have the broadband update after the survey information came back. Things are still being compiled. It was interesting data. I think the next step now would be for a select group to kind of talk with providers, and then we'll have more information probably in August to provide to council and commissioners and such. So it's a good meeting. It's a really good group of people to work with. There is those folks that are on our ARPA committee, which is Brad, Sue, and then it's the rotating member, Steve Nation, on June 14th. You have a meeting set, just to make sure that the entire council is aware. Again, reminder, joint session on 6/25, 8:30 a.m. at the Highway Department to discuss State Road 37.
When is that?
June 25th, 8:30 a.m. Does that work for you still? Yeah?
Send us another email, will you?
I would be happy to remind you, sir. On Friday, those that are part of the business plan committee will be discussing with KPMG and Baker Tilly, those that responded on the RFP. We're going to do further vetting and have questions answered, so we can report back thereafter. The script testing did happen for the ERP process as well, and my understanding is they are meeting on the 8th to discuss scoring and additional references, and then hopefully we'll have an update on next steps there. And lastly, Councilor Mackey and I, as well as then Councilor Nation, I subsequently talked about the potential of maybe bringing on an intern to help support, and I wanted to give you, Sue, the opportunity to maybe speak to that, and we can have a little bit of discussion if that's okay.
Certainly. A young lady that I know who's currently at the Purdue Honors College, she just finished her freshman year. She's a political science major and very interested in government, and she approached me and asked if there was a possibility of an internship with the county council. I told her it'd have to be unpaid because I know there's no budget, and she was willing to do that. And I know that we have a great deal of things coming up with, whether it's the nonprofit grant program or the ARPA, that whole process, that we could probably use an extra set of administrative hands. And all of you doing all the work that you're doing in the various committees could probably use another set of hands. So I approached Amy to see, hey, is this something that we can consider? She says it was considered in the past, and so, but it never went.
We had one for,
Okay.
it was a fall internship, I believe,
Yeah.
that we had done, and to be honest, I don't know that Brad maybe can attest more, as I think you were vice president that year.
Yeah, we had, and we actually paid them.
Yeah,
Okay.
we did actually pay them.
Yeah.
I will say that Councilor Nation and I talked thereafter, and there was discussion over, as we think through that whole structuring committee of what is the layout, the handbook, quote unquote, the rules look like. And Brad is a part of that committee too. Would it behoove us to have this person maybe be a part of that for the summer and kind of help lay out and navigate whether we're looking at, documentation and process, workflows of how all of these committees function and reporting back, whether we create a team site too, that we could all be collaborative and collective. There's a whole multitude of things. So I will pause and allow.
A team site, I think, would be beneficial, just to be able to look and know. I mean, we got a lot of
There's
different
a lot.
committees, a lot of different things going on. And sometimes you just don't know what's going on unless you receive an email, or, you know, like ribbon cuttings, this, that, and the other. That'd be nice. I think we should put something like that together.
I definitely think that there's value, but we wanted to kind of gauge the council's.
Yeah, we've done it before. I don't see why we couldn't do it again.
Yeah, I'm in favor of it. If we decide to go ahead, just get with me, Sue, and I'll show you where our guys sat before,
Okay,
and we'll go that way.
okay.
So I guess,
I would say the only thing you want to do, and you may think about this personally, when we had one, it was a guy I knew, one council member has to be their point of contact.
Okay.
Because with an intern coming and going, we're not here full-time, they come in here, there's nobody here, so somebody has to be that intern's point of contact.
and I
Okay.
think Steve Nation did indicate, just based on as we think through the, kind of the breakdown of what we were trying to achieve, especially if new members do come on, and understanding all of our committees and variations there, that he would be willing to do so. But I think there would definitely have to be some overlap between either the president or vice president to make sure that the communication is happening with the auditor, anything that's happening from a,
Well, and Brad is on the
Correct.
Rules Committee.
Yep.
So I would assume that Brad and myself could maybe even share that person to go ahead and be sure all that works through.
so. I am open
If,
for any
if we've
further-
paid this person in the past, would we pay this one now, even though
We
she's
still
off?
got money in that line item, Dawn?
Um,
If we don't, we can. We did then.
Okay, okay,
I got no problem. I think intern is a good idea. It gives them a chance to see how the sausage is made.
that's right.
I would ask, though, that, I don't believe that we did it last time. I think it would be really good if we had the opportunity for at least this person to meet at least with a couple of people at one
Yeah.
time.
Oh, yeah.
And we
Yeah.
didn't have that introduction. I think that made it a little bit disconnected for them.
Okay,
So I want to make sure that we have value for them too, right, and exposure to everybody.
I think the one thing that the guy that I was using, he had a conflict and he only made it to 2 or 3 of our meetings. You want to make sure they can come first Wednesday of the month.
okay,
You know what I mean?
Yep.
That's important.
yes.
If you don't see him, you don't know they're there. I knew he was here, but I don't think the rest of them did because he didn't come to too many of our meetings and I was the only one he was seeing. And so I'm in favor of it if you want to flesh it out.
Sue, how long was this internship intended? Is this,
No other discussions have taken place. I just told her, hey, let me check with the president and see if there is willingness for it and any kind of history, because I had no idea if we ever did or didn't, or if it was open. So, and I did touch base with her that we would be talking about it at this meeting, and this was last week, and I said, are you willing to wait that long? Because, you know, she wants to get going on her summer plans. And she goes, oh, yes, we're pretty close, it's good. So,
The young man I had a couple of years ago actually was a requirement. He had to have an internship someplace to graduate.
and maybe that could be part of her,
Yeah,
her deal too.
it was part of it.
I'd like for us to think about maybe having a project that's at least having something that they're putting together during the course of that so that they can come forward in front of council to present what they've done. It just allows them to have at least, he or she to have something that is on their mind to fill the gaps when they're not doing some of the extra hand-holding of our committees.
Yep.
I think go ahead, Steve, sorry.
Well, and that may, if that's a requirement in the school, that may work right on in with working with the school to show that as a credit.
And I think there was also a discussion over, maybe they lay out, potentially help assist kind of laying out maybe what a future program could look like, where value could be added, you know, what they're wanting to learn and how we could help bridge that too. So I think that's a good idea. Steve Schwartz, or do you have any comments?
I have nothing.
Okay. So is this something that then we should plan to put on the agenda for July, or is that something that we could go ahead and move forward with?
I need to check the 144s. I made myself a note,
Okay.
see if there's funding there. I
So
don't
we'll
know
plan
that's
for-
carried
If
forward.
it's currently unpaid, if we can, could we move forward with it being an unpaid position? So if this person's ready to go, and then maybe then have a conversation about it next month as far as it moving into a paid position?
Or could we,
Moving into an actual position.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Is that,
So
Okay.
right
Yeah,
now,
I'm
it
fine
needs
with
to be
that
a volunteer.
as long as Sue wants to be the point of contact.
until we get to that place
Yeah,
of semblance?
fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. I have some
Yep.
travel plans, but I'll work with Steve since he's willing.
I don't think you wanna overwhelm them, you know what I mean? This is a freshman.
Yeah,
It'll
I
take a
know.
while just to figure out what we do and why we're here. let
Freshmen
alone-
aren't drinking age yet. though,
Yeah,
so-
well, that's
Oh my
true.
gosh,
They probably
okay.
got extra time.
So
Well,
moving on, do I need
I'm
to
just
amend
thinking
the
that we have
agenda?
also a very limited amount of time, and while our meetings are month to month, let's take advantage of at least the month of June while they're not in school.
Right.
So can I have a motion to amend the agenda to include at this time an unpaid internship?
I'll motion to amend the agenda to include addition of the unpaid intern.
I'll
Second.
So moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And now I need a motion to approve an unpaid internship.
So moved.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. And that is all I have, so I will move on to you, Mr. Vice President.
Thank you. I have just one item I would like to report back on. Last month at our May meeting, I talked a little bit about the Kerrigan Bridge project. It is now complete. It was completed on time. And I would like to give a shout out to Rob Chadwell. He's the Hamilton County Highway Inspector for that project. I had several people contact me and tell me what a great job he had done. So, big shout out to Rob Chadwell from the Highway Department. And the bridge is open. Looks very nice. That's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Highway.
The Highway Department met yesterday, discussed many items that are already going to be addressed later on in the agenda. I'd just like to mention one item, which was we had made a reference in the Highway Department meetings to look at opportunities to use the ARPA money for some of the stormwater work that would be associated with the Highway Department. We've gotten a letter back from Kenton Ward, our county surveyor, for some of the survey fees that are associated with those works, and it's been forwarded on to see if that would meet the criteria to allow us to start funding some of those additional fees through that grant program.
Thank you. Finance.
We had a finance committee meeting. I got some hard copies of the minutes. You guys got them by email. Some of the stuff we'll go over later on this evening. Generally, we got, I think, a pretty good handle on everything that we're funding out of county general and our lit money. The federal money, that was not part of the discussion.
Thank you. Personnel.
We did not meet, however, we did have a few email polls, and we will address that later in the agenda tonight.
Thank you. And is there anything under miscellaneous? Seeing none, we'll move on. Unfinished business, I believe, under 2021 board appointments, we did have somebody express for Sheraton.
I did. I contacted a guy I've known for years for the Sheridan Economic Development Board. His name is Jeff Apple from Sheridan. I spoke to him this evening. I told him what it entailed. He's willing to serve, and so I've got his information here. He's willing to serve. If it's okay with you guys, I'll pass it along to Dawn to contact him, whatever information.
Do we have to motion
We
to
would
accept
need
it? I'll motion to accept Mr. Apple as the new Sheridan Economic Development Board.
And I'll second.
It's moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. And I don't believe we have anyone yet for soil and water, so we will leave that in unfinished.
Yeah, just real quickly on that, I'll start attending those meetings. David Bradbury is the new administrator that just started. So if there's anything that comes up, I'll be happy to bring that forward to the council.
Thank you, Ken. Have no tabled business. We'll move on to new business. May I have an approval of vendor claims?
So moved.
Second.
So moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Item B, grant appropriations and transfers. Items B, 1 through 4 can be combined based on the reappropriation or appropriation or reduction of these grants. Can I have a motion to combine all 4?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Now we have to motion to approve it, right?
Oh, I forget about that.
Motion to
Thank
approve.
you.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded for approval. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, Ken.
Yep.
Ordinance, Item C, ordinance CC 6-2-2021, ordinance transferring funds from the general fund to the rainy day fund. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
So moved and seconded. Do I need to suspend the rules on this one?
Yes.
So let's start with a motion to suspend the rules.
So moved.
Second.
So moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Now I need an approval for ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
So moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item D, ordinance CC 6-2-2021, an ordinance of the Hamilton County Council establishing policies and procedures for virtual public meetings. I need a motion to suspend the rules.
So moved.
Second.
So moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
So moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item E and F, just as a clarification rather, item F1, that abatement is complete or done, so that can be struck from the agenda. We can combine E and F, since they are all falling under Beck's Superior Hybrids as far as compliance with statement of benefits, real property, and personal property. Is there a motion to approve combining E and F with striking item 1?
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
So moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Is there a motion to approve item E and F, striking F1?
Do
Motion
we
approved.
want to approve it before we hear from
We have
our
to-
We
guy
have
from
to
Beck?
We have to
motion and
motion.
second for discussion.
Oh,
Motion to approve.
Second.
So moved and seconded. Hello, sir. How are you?
Doing well, how are you?
We are doing well.
Yeah, I think Beck's Hybrid would just like to thank the county for the assistance that, the partnership we've all had for the projects that have been going on, and we're in compliance with everything as we're moving forward, and just if you have any questions, here to answer those.
so what we have four, four for real property and three for,
For personal,
personal property?
yep.
And you meet the guidelines and all that. Are you needing anything else? Are you planning any other additions in the short term?
Everything that's planned is under the latest layer of abatement, so that satisfies what we're working on right now.
Good, okay.
Along that, the most significant project that's going on right now, there will be an open house for that on August 25th. I believe Governor Holcomb will be attending that, so we'll extend that invitation to the council as that, as
Great.
details for that come about too, so.
Anything additional? Thank you so much.
All right, thanks.
So moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item G, the Hamilton County grant application, which is the document related to
So you had
the,
ACES was mixed in there, wasn't it?
we struck that from the agenda.
Oh, good, okay.
I handed out to all of you a copy of our proposed grant application. Background of this, in the past, the grant process for Hamilton County funds to our nonprofit agencies have not gone as smoothest as it could have gone. And it could have been a frustrating experience both for our council members and the nonprofits themselves. So what we propose to do is streamline the process, clarify what organizations we want to give money for what types of key priorities the county has. That way the organizations know whether it's something that they should spend their time applying for or not. And then we'll get information about that organization and what the program is that they want to fund with the county funds. And then we, as a county, the commissioners will review and approve, as well as the county council for funding of those priorities. So we have a application, and I distributed to my fellow council members several times. We've met with several nonprofits. A lot of work initially was done by Ken Alexander and Steve Nation with some of our nonprofit partners in the county. And so that we have tweaked this form over and over. The intent is not to expand the not-for-profit grant program, it's to streamline it and clarify it so for everybody's use. So with that, we have it
So
in front of
can
you.
I have a motion to approve use for discussion?
I'll motion to approve.
Second.
So moved and seconded. Is there discussion from
Yeah, I
members
got,
of council?
one thing I read in here, I don't know, I'm not seeing it now, was percentage of operating cost. I thought that was a good thing. Did somebody take that out?
Yeah, we took it out for this clarifying reason, is that some of the nonprofits, that there is that percentage, we didn't want to limit, especially for a new organization, the amount of money we give for operating, and that there is still that clarification in here that priority will be given to newly established organizations, but we didn't want to handcuff ourselves in the future for what type of, what percentage or amount we would give to an organization. And that was the feedback I got, either for the maximum dollar amount or a percentage amount, was we didn't want to put ourselves in the corner when we maybe want to do something in the future and we'd end up not
You can still ask
doing
the
that.
question, though.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is a fair question. I mean, we don't want them to be completely reliant on county government for their funds. That
And then it
was- that
still
was
is
something
about the
that-
2 consecutive years, is that for the general operating, where we don't, it doesn't go to a specific program or initiative of theirs, when it's just general, that is just 2 years of in a row, and after that, they
So
need
around
to
7,
go there.
maybe.
It's under 7, yeah. But we didn't, we took out the percentage.
Is there any other discussion?
Yeah, I got a couple things to say.
Okay.
Okay, I want to start off by saying I am always aware that the money that we give to non-for-profits, the money we give to non-for-profits have been extracted from taxpayers by force of law. We take your property tax, we take your income tax. And if you don't pay them, we'll take your house and then take the property tax. So it's not voluntary. It's not like me or you going down to the local Salvation Army and give a donation. We extract taxes from the citizens. And then comes to our coffers, and then we're going to turn around and pass it out for non-for-profits. The whole premise seems somewhat skewed, as far as I'm concerned, that we're in a position of handing out we're giving donations, we're giving out money to non-for-profits, money we've taken for people, not voluntarily. That being said, the form I'm looking at here, and I had a kind of a back and forth with Sue a few weeks ago. Number one, I disagree with one of the 3 caveats here. The 2022 key priorities, human services, I don't know what that means. Quality of life, I understand that. Education, I do not believe county governments is in the education business. I do not believe that that's a fundamental priority or purpose for the county government to be in, is education. Education, it takes up the lion's share of the state's government's funding. All the school systems in the county are the lion's share of our property tax that we pay, so I don't feel like county government priority in not-for-profits should be going towards education. I think education's important, but I think they got a lot of other funding sources besides the county council or county government in general. So I think that those other sources ought to be handling education. We handle sheriff's department, auditor, treasurer, recorder, the court system, probation system. I don't think education is a function of county government. And along with that, over the years, we have funded different educational programs as they've come up. But if you're going to try to get this into a form and send it out to the non-for-profits and let them kind of go through it, I don't personally agree that education is a function of county government. I will point out that a few years ago, we spent over $10 million buying the Ivy Tech building. Cash money, bought it outright. Here it is, use it for higher education. And I myself am a product of Ivy Tech, So I was in favor of that because it seemed like a collaborative thing with the city and the state. It seemed like a good idea. Not only that, we pay $750,000 a year out of county budget to fund youth assistance for our K through 12 education system. So I personally feel like we've done enough. We've paid enough. On an ongoing basis, we're enough. Education of the school children of Hamilton County is not a function of county government, and I don't feel like that we should go forward with that as a premise of funding non-for-profits.
Brad, you bring up a
I'm
good
done.
point.
You say whatever you
Yeah.
want to, I'm done.
You bring up a good point. That should be clarified. I do not believe the intent of anyone here is for K through 12 education. It'd be education of all sorts, whether it's for adults and mental health issues or family, how to raise a family correctly, for the best, trying to think of the right words, but there's lots of adult education and family education, even children education that's not related to K through 12 that can be funded through these things. So it is broad, and maybe we should clarify not standard K through 12 education programs.
Could you-
And that's just my,
Could you do maybe human services? I'm just thinking if you're combining the two where you're being specific, right? I think there does need to be clarification. That was a.
Would I believe workforce development is a form of
yeah,
education.
workforce
Right,
development.
correct.
That's
And
thank
that-
you.
yeah,
That's
so
a
I mean-
perfect
It's
example.
broad, but we probably do need
To
to.
clarify, yeah.
Yeah, the dollar amounts were, every year, I've made that argument since I've been here, every single year, trying to streamline these. That what you'll have is you'll have a dollar amount, this not-for-profit will come in and say, I want $50,000. And then this person likes it, so they'll be like, well, I'm in favor of that, so they'll vote on it. So, I don't see anything wrong with coming up with some type of uniform thing, because that's the smallest part of, a small part of our budget, and it grew. I actually had it to where it was capped one year. Said, look, we all agreed that it was capped, and then the very next year, because that's the thing I've been doing, is like, look, this goes outside of what we're doing, this is outside of county government scope, we keep spending more taxpayer money. We're taking their money and giving it to a charity they might not even agree with, et cetera. I just, that part about the operating expenses, I think, was a good thing, but also, why does this not-for-profit get more? That's what we're gonna be battling about in September. This one will say they got 50,000 last year, this year they want 60. It's gonna keep growing. I'm telling you, that's what we're gonna be arguing about. I'd like to see something addressing that and how we decide the amount of funding that each one of them gets.
And I think that's a great point, Fred.
Yeah.
The way I look at this is that you have three buckets. You have statutory requirements that we would have to provide if these non-for-profits did not do the work. And we have things like Prevail and others that basically provide a service that if we didn't do it, the prosecutor's office and others would have to
Yeah.
fill the gap. Then you have the non-for-profits that are doing a service that saves us money or prevents us from expending money on that. And the case in point would be Trinity Free Clinic, Heart and Soul, Hope, that if these people that did not have insurance would go into the county government system, they would go into the county and it would cost us money to service them. And so by them providing that free service, that allows for us to not hit with those fees when they go in. The third one is the one I think that you're really talking about. Because I think the first two we can look at and say, these are items that we could basically appropriate, and no. The last one is the bucket is, it's for the county public good. And you can determine what that is, what are the basis of that criteria, each individually, but that it's not really tied to anything that the county is doing. And that's something where, can we put a limit on that for our budget hearings and make decisions? When I started this process a year and a half ago, the idea was getting to a streamlined process where we could understand what our funding mechanism was and set a budget for it, and then live within that budget and make determinations what it is. What I recognized when I came in was that there was never an understanding of what money was going to. It didn't have a perceived ROI. It seemed to be a lot of operating costs, and it wasn't something that was tangible, that we could go and say, this is what we did and this is why it was done. I think last year was we funded a greenhouse, if I'm not mistaken. And that was to help them so they could provide food, the food pantries during the pandemic and beyond. we thought that was of the public good. And that would be something that was a grant for a one-time gift to a capital expense that's gonna help. So that's the way I see those three buckets. And we can all debate as far as what is in the public good, and I think that's what we're gonna end up debating again.
We'll end up debating it, but the whole thing is though, this person liked this not-for-profit, so this not-for-profit for a while was getting $250,000.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money for the rest of them. So this one is providing more of something that you can link directly to county government, and they're at 150. This one, you can't really link this at all to county government in any way, shape, or form. It does not serve the entire, so what I'm saying is we're gonna get to those points where, and every single one that we funded last year will come for an increase this year, more than likely.
I
But,
think
you
there,
know,
sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just
No,
gonna say, the one thing, just to end it, and then Amy, you can wrap it up.
Sure.
Was just the way that I look at this is that this form actually provides, I'd say, what are you gonna use this money for? So we actually will understand what it is it's going for, so that we can determine, was that ROI achieved when they come back in the following year?
And actually, we put in, but that was added from the first draft, that they are required to submit a report to us by September 1st of the results of how they spent the money. So we know what they did before even if they don't apply the next year, we're gonna get a report of what happened, and how they used the funds.
As I kind of watched this evolve and the various versions that had come out, I mean, I think you aren't incorrect by saying, yes, we're gonna have very similar, it's going to be similar to what we saw last year. I think if you get into the meat of this, it's a very good starting point
Oh, I
for
agree with that.
the streamlining process
totally
that
agree
could
with that.
happen as a result. And I think it will continue to evolve,
It
but this is
will.
much further than we've been in the past. I think it's a very good starting point to get some true semblance around it, and it may mitigate some of that, well, you like this one and you like that one, and so how do we get into the, I found that the information was valuable and I think would provide probably more clarity over to the.
Yeah, and I agree, that is a
Use.
good point, though, that it more than likely will evolve.
It will.
Oh, yes,
Yes.
I don't see this as, we just gotta get started.
Correct.
Let's
Yeah.
start this
Oh,
year
yeah.
and see what worked, didn't work, and then change it for next
So
year.
the one question that I would have, if you were, we had the motion, or we would need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
The caveat with that would be, do we want to quickly come up with something that would mitigate the word education so that it is broader, I guess, or more,
Is there a motion to approve on the floor, so we'd have to
so we'd have to amend.
amend that, and are you comfortable with putting that? Was I the one that, the motion?
Yes.
I'll rescind my motion. And, Sue, if you, what language would you like to?
Here, help me folks here, education, just not K through 12 tradition, K through 12, although it could be some student initiatives, but
Right, so you want to make sure that if education is a
That's-
sticking point, or we can just see. how the
Does that
parts-
fall into human services?
That's kind of what I was thinking as well. You could strike the education part.
I'm fine with that, just
So
striking it.
then you would need to actually strike where it says, the key, if there was, hold on, one key.
So I think I can.
I think actually you'd be fine. You can just strike
think
the education from the document and approve.
Yeah, I think I got that. So I will motion to approve the Hamilton County grant application, striking the 2022 key priority education and all references to that in the document.
Is there a second?
Second?
It's moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Thank you for your hard work, committee.
Good job, Sue.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
The heavy lifting was.
This time I will open the public hearing concerning additional appropriations. Item A, County General requesting $6,466,659. Item number 1 is an auditor additional appropriation that was sponsored by Brad Beaver. Is there a motion to approve for discussion?
So moved.
Second.
This is overtime and extra work that the auditor's office putting in for all the grant stuff flowing through.
You notice when you have, since the auditor, Beaver's name's attached to it?
I spend a lot of time in there.
Yeah.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 2 under Commissioners. First is an additional $425,000 for the Career Center and that is sponsored by Councilman Alexander. Is there a motion to approve for discussion?
So moved.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing.
I just want to
Yeah.
reiterate my point on the K through 12 education. This is exactly where this is going. And I want to point out again, I am a product of the trades. It's not that I'm against, it's the funding mechanism. We're the easiest take to come and get $400,000 without going to the people who actually benefit, which is the trades and the business community.
Is there any other discussion?
Yeah, I'd just like to add, I think that, the benefit is across the board. It's to the schools that can provide a balanced opportunity for students. It's to the students that wish to pursue alternative opportunities that might provide a successful career in the future. It's a benefit to the businesses that are here, that provides a workforce development piece that is missing. It's a benefit to the businesses that are looking to come here, that are looking for something like this that's going to allow them to say, I trust that this is an area that I can continue to grow and meet my workforce development. And it's a benefit to the county and our cities, because when businesses and economic development happens, that's to our benefit. So that's what that would be. While I understand the K through 12, this is like as was mentioned before, this is our initial grant opportunity to kick them off. It's not to create a sustained cost that we're going to be paying them. The idea that was what was presented in the presentation last month, which I'm not going to go through another 30-minute presentation for all your benefit, but was to that this opportunity was to allow for the K through 12 and the school districts and the business community. K through 12 is going to be searching for the grants. The business community is going to be looking at the opportunities that need to happen and what careers are in need. And the business community is going to be coming forward to provide help in the scholastic, setting up the boundaries of the programs, but also providing the internships and the growth that need to happen. So while I appreciate that this looks and appears to be a K through 12 benefit, I would tell you that the benefit is far outreaching anything that is what we're going to talk about here tonight.
We could have made the same argument with the business community funding it when it came to Ivy Tech, and that was in the millions. We could have made that same argument. I wouldn't have personally supported that. That's for a county, it's not countywide initiative. We're funding one thing that's right up there. The one thing I got a call on this from a few different people that didn't want to see this go through. One person was talking about that you can get these kind of services elsewhere in the county, but when I brought up the Perkins funding, because I'm like, okay, well tell me, how are you going to get it so we start getting that grant funding? There was no answer for it. So, because I was on the fence until that person, I said, look, I'll gladly try to get this thing or try to get it so we don't fund this thing. If you can call me by the meeting and tell me, is your thing that you're doing, I don't know if you see, I think you mentioned maybe Ivy Tech, is that going to generate this Perkins funding? Is that going to save us money down the road? And the answer was no. So, to me, you can make that same argument with Ivy Tech. And people here voted for that, and that was in the millions. This is a one-time expenditure of $425,000. It's not going to hit our annual budget, and it will get the grant
What do
funding.
you mean it won't hit our budget?
It's not going to hit it's not an annual line item. It's not going to be there every single year, is what I'm saying. And if it does, then I would vote against it. But for now, with the way it is now, one-time budget item to start getting that grant funding that we don't currently have, then I'm going to support it. So,
Is there any additional comments from council? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'm opposed.
Motion carries. At this time, item B, an additional $14,500 for the women's shelter. I will ask at this point, it's sponsored by Fred Glenn. I'd like to introduce RQAW to come and give a presentation. There is a committee that has been a part of this. They did present to myself, Steve Nation, and Fred, and we're excited for the opportunity to
We gotta make
have
a
you here.
motion.
I do need a motion to approve.
so moved.
Second.
So moved and seconded. The floor is yours.
Fantastic, thank you. So I'm Rebecca Dixon with RQAW, and I'm an architect, and this is my associate, Caleb Rothenberger, and Caleb is a landscape architect. And I wanted to give you a quick update of kind of the things that we've been working through in the design of the Prevail Women's Shelter facility. Let me,
Uh-oh.
yeah.
I remember that.
Well, yeah, hang with me for just a minute. There we go. So, I met initially with Susan and her colleagues, and we toured the facility, and we...
Could you,
See
sorry.
the front of the microphone.
Oh, sure, I'm
Thank
sorry.
you.
Absolutely. Better?
Yes.
Okay. I met with Susan and toured the facility, and then had a discussion with her about the existing facility requirements as well as future requirements, and was able to kind of pull together an preliminary architectural space program that helped us understand what current and future needs would be. We believe the facility would need to be around 20,000 square feet to meet those needs. Next, we had a visioning session, and the visioning session is basically to build consensus around some of the big ideas and goals before design is started. And quickly, we talked about the mission statement and how built environment might be able to help support the goals and mission, vision, and core goals of Prevail. We talked about biophilic design, and for those of you that aren't familiar with biophilia, it's basically an inherent human inclination to affiliate with natural forms and systems. So things like natural light, patterns that you see in nature, views of nature, all natural materials. Those are some of the things that we commonly see in biophilic design, and it's also something that is very supportive to the folks that would use this facility. We talked about the healing garden, and Caleb's going to go into more detail on that in just a minute. We talked about color therapy and wayfinding, and how that it can be a factor in reducing environmental stress, as well as helping to even small children to kind of find, their front door in a transitional living situation. We talked about security, and as you might guess, that is a pretty big issue in these sorts of facilities. And I think the challenge here would be to have a robust security feature, but to not have it feel like it's institutional. So looking at using some of the passive security systems that we know are successful. So clear sight lines in your floor plan, mechanical and electrical rooms can be located on the outside of the facility, position windows so that passersby can't look into the facility. There are a lot of those items that we know that we can incorporate in the design, as well as the crime prevention through environmental design, or the CPTED that you see diagrammed. We also talked about noise as a factor and how we can do some soundproofing solutions for that. We looked at the providing an appropriate level of lighting, how that can impact just environmental stressors, or decrease environmental stressors if you do it correctly. Wanting to do something that is more maybe daylight incorporation, warmer light sources, movable light sources, so that it has, at least for the transitional living and group rooms, that it has a feel that's more domestic than institutional. And then we also looked at personalization, because we know that a domestic abuse survivor might have a bit of a triggering relationship with their home, so it's important to personalize the space that they do live in, or the spaces that they're using as a user of the facility.
Hi. And so
when we were doing this visioning session, we felt that it was important that this didn't come across as just a facility that served a need, or a safe harbor for these victims, but also a place for healing and therapy. So on the lines of biophilic design and incorporating this facility into nature and having that healing aspect of nature in the outdoor environment and opening that architecturally out to those spaces and giving those users a lot of opportunity for different types of engagement of that space. It's important for them to feel they're in control of that space, giving them options for a passive experience where they're just sitting and enjoying or absorbing the natural environment, or an active space that has more of a community element, whether it's social activity with gardening with other people staying there, places for a private space, a public space, to really, for them to have an opportunity to heal. There's a lot of components that you can incorporate into this with, how do you activate the space for families with children, giving them an opportunity to be in that space and know that it's secured and safe, while having the parent have an opportunity to seclude themselves in more of a private setting. And this has a deep connection to the orientation and layout of the building on the site. And so we met with the ladies at Prevail and talked about how these different components of the building relate to each other, and what we kind of envision as far as, we want this centralized space that would benefit the facility as a whole with these different components. But as we started working through this, we realized that there are different user groups that maybe conflict, that they don't necessarily want to have direct access to one another. Someone in the housing component and someone in group component, we don't really want that relationship to be that closely connected. So we started to see how each of these different pieces want to speak to each other and work together. And that's where we started to develop more of this linear layout of, you have your housing component and they have their own connection to nature and their own healing component. And then you have group therapy and the office component that communicate to each other. And they have their own separate opportunity to engage nature or outdoor therapy functions or other things that they do outside. So those two uses communicate well together. We want to make sure that the housing component feels like it's their space and they have their own private secured zone, that they don't feel like there's any intrusiveness on their space. In the same respect, people coming to group don't necessarily want that visual association, maybe someone that's at the housing component, seeing them come to group or vice versa. So that seemed like that was an important conflict that we wanted to try to avoid with the building layout. So as we take these components and that diagram and kind of start to overlay graphically diagram how that may lay out on a site of those uses and how that relates to the public face of that building, and the approach of parking, having that the building elevated or that open visual for security reasons, having all of that kind of facing that front, having a centralized secure zone as someone coming and approaching that building for the first time, having them an opportunity to, if you're coming to group, having that very inviting for on a more of a public feel, and then the housing component having its own entrance that's more inviting on a more intimate level. This is their home. These ladies would stay there for a year or more, so they really, you don't want this to feel like they're staying in an institution. You want it to feel like this is a comfortable transition for women and children in this environment. So start to morph this into, how does that lay out into different opportunities on the site, and connecting into nature with, a healing gardens that for the housing component, where this is more of a secured private garden space for them to reflect and benefit from the healing opportunity there. either there's private rooms, space for more of a social activity for group yoga or group classes, and then opportunities for smaller rooms and sun and shade for them to have more seclusion and separation. The group function would have some sort of corridor where there's limited visual or no visual out to this more secured housing component, and their visual will be more to this open, more semi-public green space that the office and group functions would utilize. And possibly there's opportunity for more of, plaza, smaller garden space, but then that may open up to more like field function if they have, depending on the different group activities, the size of the group, space for them to break out and have more of that type of group activity. Separation of the different parking components, staff having their own space, public being very front, close facing, so someone parking coming there can immediately get access to the door without having any sort of invasion of privacy there. And then having a secured resident parking, someplace that they know that that's always safe. If they're coming and going from their unit to their car, they are not in fear of an attacker or somebody approaching them. They know that that parking area is safe for them. Same for their outdoor courtyard space. That space would be secured, so they know there's only one point of access into that space.
And then in looking at the building design, we understand that we looked at a couple of options. There may or may not be an opportunity on the Riverview campus, and if there is, we sometimes want to look at contextually what might make sense. And so we looked at materials, primarily on the Westfield building. And so we looked at, some of the stone and the brick and the vertical windows that they have, exposed columns with clear finished anodized aluminum. So one of the, so in looking at just kind of sketching up conceptually what something like that might look like, this is looking at the entrance, and the stone piece that you see in the center would be where the group rooms are, the entry piece. To the left would be offices in a two-story stack. Again, we have exposed columns, vertical window, vertical fenestration, and then on the right would be the living quarters. And then when you come around to the courtyard space, looking at the offices on the right and the group space on the left, and just, again, looking at some of the cues that we get from Riverview, and particularly the Westfield building. We also then met with Susan and at one of the meetings and talked with her, showed her a number of images, and tried to, first of all, get an idea of, does this building need to be more residential or does it need to be more commercial in nature? Does it need to have an institutional feel? Does it need to look like it's a home? Does it need to do both? And we kind of landed on something that is less residential. And so we looked at some of the expressions that we see for a more modern building that has a lot of the biophilic design features that we had been talking about. So natural materials, wood, stone, a lot of glazing so that you have views out into nature, a lot of natural features incorporated and kind of blurring those lines between inside and out. And then, so in looking at what that might start to look like, you can see, again, this is the public side, so the center piece would be group rooms, entry feature, and then on the left are the offices, and then on the right would be the transitional living quarters. And this is, if you're in the courtyard, to your left on this view would be the transitional living with some outdoor balconies, trellises, to help incorporate more of a residential scale and feel. And then to the right is the group room piece that comes down the center. So again, these are conceptual in nature, but just some ideas that we are starting to develop.
And again, what is on the table from a motion perspective is the pre-project, the staff and space of programming, and then the site feasibility from a conceptual imagery perspective. So at this point, I know that that was a lot of information, and the group that, I know we provided some insights in our first meeting, but are there questions from council as far as kind of the vision and thoughts from a discussion? And
Who's on the committee?
myself, Fred, and Steve
That's it?
Nation.
Okay.
I just have a question,
Sure.
a couple of questions. You'd said 20,000 square feet, is that correct? Approximately.
Preliminarily,
And then the living units, how many would there actually be in that?
initially 6, and then they would, we would add on to create 12 total.
Okay, yeah, that was my next question, of having the ground where you can expand the footprint if needed. So that is in your plan as well?
Yeah.
or
This, in the
hopefully it
site
is?
plan, let's
Was
see.
it? Okay, I
Yeah.
can't see it from here, so.
Oh.
It's in your
You-
packet.
If you,
Yeah, I yeah,
You
I don't have a screen either.
okay, I've got handouts if you would like one.
Yeah,
Okay.
in this image, we show it just to the left dashed in where we have.
On the left side, it says future. That would be
Okay.
6 additional units.
Perfect.
Fred, do you have any kind of preliminary, I know what's on the agenda is for us to give them some money to pay for the work they've already done. That's what's on tonight's agenda.
Yeah, we're also just keeping this thing moving. We got, but if you're asking the question on what the dollar amount is, the dollar amount right now is contingent on us getting the land that we're looking at right now, and we're in the $3 to $5 million range, 5 million being very high, right? So
Okay,
that's, yeah.
so have you got it worked out as to like, who's buying the building, who's operating it?
Yeah,
How-
that
how's
is
their
something that's
funding
being
going?
looked at, yes, specifically because we cannot issue bonds on something we don't own. So yeah, that is something that is being taken into consideration.
You're working on it,
Yes,
okay?
yes.
Because we'll wanna know who's operating, how they're gonna function going forward, how they're gonna feed themselves going forward.
All that, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yes,
Okay.
that's all a part of the,
yeah.
Fred, in the committee, I'd just like to, I applaud you for at least, I think, going out and understanding what we're gonna build first. We've had that kind of discussion here over the last couple months with the garage and things like that, and getting a full idea of what that program is. Clearly, that effort's, I think, gone to good use, and you can see the value of that early engagement, and then understanding how it's gonna go forward so that we can set up the pro forma and all the other financials that go along with
Yeah.
it. So, good job putting that together.
Yeah. And these guys have done a great job, and this is to keep this right here, this small amount is to keep this moving. It's very important, that's why I want it on the agenda, just to keep it moving.
Thank you. 22 years ago, when I went through the Leadership Academy, this was identified as our class, a domestic violence shelter for women was identified as a key need for our county, and our county was a fraction of what it is now. So the fact that 22 years later, we're still talking about this, thank you for pushing this forward, because it's time, it's beyond time. I'm just kind of surprised it's as small as it is, as far as the residential end of it.
So is the motion on the floor?
it
Yeah.
is. Is
And
there any
second.
other discussion or? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Don't I love the new screens?
Item 3, council appropriation in the amount of $5,966,875. This was a finance committee recommendation, and this is related back to item C from the agenda, which is that special distribution that we,
Yeah, we want to move the lit distribution from county general to the rainy day fund.
yep, related to the ordinance C. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
It's moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. ISS appropriation in the amount of $34,283.33. This is related to grant reimbursement. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item B is a transfer in the amount of $47,918. This is a reclassification of money that was approved last month, if I'm not mistaken. Is there a motion to approve?
So
So
moved.
moved.
So moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item B, Fund 1053, Solid Waste Management District, requesting $5,400. You can combine 1 and 2 because it is a reduction in appropriation, just moving money. Is there a motion to combine 1 and 2?
I'll make a motion to combine.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Motion carries.
I'll
Now I
make
need
a
an
motion
approval.
For approval?
Second.
So moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item C, 1, an additional appropriation in the amount of $715,452.50. That is sponsored by Sue Mackey. May I have a motion to approve for discussion?
So moved.
Second.
So moved and seconded. Sue?
What we
This
gonna
is-
get for our $715,000?
This is working on 116th Bridge over White River. It's our half of a community crossings grant that the Highway Department or their county received. And so this is our half of the total of the cost of that bridge repair. And the bridge will not be closed, but there will be lane restrictions on 116th Street over the White River.
Is there any discussion further?
So moved.
It's already been moved and seconded.
Oh.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 2 is a transfer in the amount of $125,000. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
So moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item D, Fund 1148, Hamilton County Council on Drugs and Alcohol, requesting $29,956.45. Sponsored by Steve Nation. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Steve, is there any discussion?
Monica's here if you wish to go ahead and have any explanation.
Any questions for Monica?
I have none.
Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item E, Fund 1176, MVH. There is a transfer in the amount of $17,300. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
So moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Item 2, a transfer in the amount of $330,000. Is there a motion to approve?
Most, but,
So moved.
seconded.
So moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Fund 1176-1173, MVH restricted, requesting $131,890.56. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Seconded.
So moved and seconded. Sue, is there any comment or any comments from council?
This is just for a reconstruction of a drain that the surveyor's office is doing, and then therefore the highway department has to work on the road. We are going to look and see if these types of expenses can be reimbursed or funded through the ARPA program, since it's stormwater related, so we hope to have money coming from that, for that in the future, so.
Great. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Fund 1222, Public Safety Communications 144 Amendment. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
So moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Fund 4807, the non-referred and computer maintenance, requesting $266,500. Is there a motion to approve for discussion?
So moved.
Second.
So moved and seconded. This is related to basically paying for the Ranger system replacement project. Any questions?
Why don't you just jump out there and tell me what the Ranger replacement project is?
I am
For the
happy to
record.
have Chris Mertens come up and talk about Computronics if you would prefer that.
Yeah, I'm gonna understand every word of it, I'm sure. This is why you get whatever you want, because I don't know enough to question what you're doing.
That's the plan. No, that's a system that's used by the health department and planning department, and it's simply aged out, and there's a replacement. We've engaged with Computronics to upgrade to the latest version, and it takes a project to do that. They actually extended support for us past what they did for other customers last year because of the pandemic and all the other things we had going on.
Okay.
Any other questions for
I have a
Chris?
question.
Yeah.
So as we look at these types of upgrades and, the service side of things as well as, is this something that's a one-time cost? We're gonna have ongoing maintenance, I'm assuming, and upgrades in the future? Is that fair to assume at this time?
Yeah, we budget for those, so we look at maintenance cost every year and try to, anticipate, and we work with our vendors to kind of determine what the increases are gonna be. So we have a maintenance contractor with Computronics that would cover that Ranger product. But yeah, it's every year, we look at upgrades and maintenance cost and.
Part of why we created this non-reverting fund so that you could have a bucket and plan and not have to do it on a year-by-year basis, right?
Yeah, and initially that ordinance was amended a few years ago because at one time it only included hardware, and we couldn't pay for any software or upgrades or anything like that out of it. It really gives us flexibility, so.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions for Chris? Seeing none, I'll.
Understand, Fred?
I just figured that the person sponsoring it would.
That's what I was
Well, and
hoping
normally,
too.
and I told you exactly what it was, but I figured he should articulate it in more
The
detail,
health-
because Fred, you might be speaking the
If your
lingo.
name's on
I don't
it,
wanna
you
give
gotta be
layman's
Yeah.
terms all the time, Fred.
The health
you know?
department is the big user of it, and that's how they do their inspections.
Okay.
Thank you, Chris.
Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Fund 4814, local income tax revenue bonds of 2021 proceeds requesting $1,170,264.15. Is there a motion to approve for discussion?
So moved.
Second.
Brad, why don't you give us the,
Well, see, what's gonna happen, we're gonna do income tax revenue bond. I'm gonna put it in my pocket and then run out the door.
is there any discussion?
Appropriating bond proceeds, that's all it is, right? Okay.
Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. At this time, I will close the public hearing and we will move on to announcements. Sheriff? Thank you for being here. Council Attorney? Thank you for being here. And Madam Auditor?
I have one item, discussed this with Amy late this afternoon. I was notified by the health department that one of their grants was going to be short. Just the appropriation, they have plenty in cash, that we just need to move the money. So I would ask that you add this to the agenda and act on it so that they don't run in the red.
May I have a motion to amend the agenda to include the short monies for salary and perf to finish the end of June payroll?
So moved.
Seconded.
It's been moved and seconded for amendment. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Now may I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Do you have anything further?
Just to congratulate the treasurer's office and our office, settlement's done. Monies will go out to the units on Friday. So we've got our first settlement
Everybody gets
under the
paid?
belt for the year. Yes,
That's fantastic.
yes.
Great job, thank you.
Anything further? Or adjourned?